day of March 2020. The coronavirus is spreading across the world at an unprecedented scale. Kenya has not been spared and the disruptions have begun. No one is immune and there is no vaccine. To minimize the impact of this pandemic is in changing our behavior. We have a full coverage of this and other stories in the next 1 hour, and this is what you can expect.
Tonight, 2 more confirmed cases.
The 2 have tested positive as a result of coming into contact with the first patient.
Patients moved into isolation facility. And
there is nothing we are leaving to chance.
Schools closed, courts closed.
Hearings and mentions of all civil cases in all the courts are hereby suspended with the immediate effect.
Some of the measures that we have taken today may cause inconvenience.
Kenya bracing for a lockdown. Plus, mysterious disappearance. Family alarmed.
We've just been working with all law enforcement officers and his friends just to try and track his last steps.
Also tonight, prices have gone through the roof. Auctioneers now busy.
We have an opening bid of 30 million shillings.
Julian Amboko with tonight's special, the housing correction.
This is Weekend Edition with Dennis Okari.
Very many thanks for joining us this evening. Our sign language interpreter is Flora Atieno. We'll start with our top story. Tonight, President Uhuru Kenyatta has today announced the first measures the government is taking in a bid to curb the spread of the coronavirus in the country. Top among them is the immediate suspension of learning in all institutions across the country. President Kenyatta has also given strict guidelines on travel into the country that includes denial of entry to self- and government-sponsored quarantine. These are among 8 measures the president announced after a 3rd case of the virus was reported in the country.
Following the results of the 2 additional cases, we are now, this evening, directing the following additional protocols. Number 1, the government is suspending travel for all persons coming into Kenya from any country with reported coronavirus cases. Number 2, only Kenyan citizens and foreigners with valid residence permits will be allowed to come in, provided they proceed on self-quarantine or to a government-designated quarantine facility. This will take effect within the next 48 hours to cater for any passengers who may be en route. This directive will remain in effect for the next 30 days or as varied by the National Emergency Response Committee. Number 3, all persons who have come into Kenya in the last 14 days must self-quarantine. If any person exhibits symptoms such as cough or fever, they should present themselves to the nearest health facility for testing. Number 4, we have suspended learning in all our education institutions with immediate effect. Consequently, and to facilitate a phased approach, primary and secondary day schools are to suspend operations from tomorrow. For those in boarding schools, the school administration is to ensure that students are home by Wednesday, the 18th March 2020, while universities and tertiary institutions are to close by Friday, 20th March 2020. Where possible, as number 5, government offices, businesses, and companies are encouraged to allow employees to work from home, with the exception of employees working in critical or essential services. Number 6, in order to avoid the risk of transmission through physical handling of money, we encourage the use of cashless transactions, such as mobile money, M-Pesa and otherwise, and credit cards, and we appeal to mobile operators and banks to take note of the situation that we are in and to reduce the cost of transactions during this period. Number 7, in line with the directive to avoid crowded places, citizens are encouraged to A, avoid congregating, including in places of worship, B, minimize attendance to social gatherings, including weddings and funerals, and restrict the same to immediate family members. C, we call for people to avoid crowded places, including shopping malls and entertainment premises. And D, to minimize congestion in public transport whenever possible. And lastly, E, the limitation of visitors to hospitalized patients in both public and private hospitals. Number 8, hospitals and shopping malls are encouraged to provide soap, water, hand sanitizers, and ensure that all their premises are regularly cleaned and disinfected.
The country has confirmed its third case of coronavirus as 27 others remain quarantined for having been in contact with the first confirmed case. Further, the government has directed a scale down of essential services, but as NTV's Kennedy Muridi reports, President Uhuru Kenyatta has said sufficient measures have been put in place to contain the spread of the virus.
The country will now be getting daily updates on the government's efforts to contain the fast-spreading coronavirus.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
This directive was issued by President Uhuru Kenyatta, who on Sunday joined the emergency team chaired by Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe to personally update the country and announce measures his government has taken this far.
We had traced 27 persons who had come into contact with the first patient. We have since tested all 27 people at our National Influenza Center, and today we have received confirmation of 2 more cases of the coronavirus.
The government also confirming that the 2 new cases that have been announced are part of those people who had been called in for quarantine and had actually sat next to patient 0 in the plane on her way to Nairobi.
Our health officials have already moved them into Kenyatta National Hospital isolation facility.
The government is also assuring Kenyans of sufficient measures to contain further spread and panic.
Any patient who has come into contact with this disease will be given full support to ensure that they are able to recover.
But even as he announces measures to be taken, including people working from home and closure of schools, President Kenyatta acknowledged the economy is most likely to get a beating as the country stares at a possible shutdown.
Some of the measures that we have taken today may cause inconvenience, but I want to assure you that they are designated and designed to ensure that we effectively contain the spread of this deadly virus.
A warning has also been issued to the business community, especially those dealing with hospital equipment, against hiking prices at a time when it is being reported that prices of hand sanitizers have shot through the roof.
Competition Authority has already been given clear instructions, and they will be moving around. And anybody who is seen to have taken unnecessary and undue advantage of this particular crisis to make our citizens pay more than they should, serious and severe action will be taken against those who perpetuate in that ungodly act.
President Kenyatta said that most of the measures announced will be in place for at least 30 days as the country fights the disease that is now in more than 100 countries globally. Kennedy Muredi, NTV.
Well, the coronavirus has effectively brought the already slowing moving wheels of justice to a grinding halt following a pronouncement by the National Council on Administration of Justice that all criminal and civil appeals, hearings and mentions in all courts stand suspended. There is, however, a silver lining for remandees and those incarcerated for relatively minor offences as the council moves to decongest prisons. Olive Barrows outlines the measures the judiciary is taking to guard against the spread of COVID-19.
The National Council on Administration of Justice met on Sunday to determine the way forward following the confirmation of a COVID-19 case in the country. The meeting, chaired by the Chief Justice, David Maraga, also involved the Director of Public Prosecutions, Nuruddin Haji, the Inspector General of Police, Hilary Mutyambai, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, as well as the Law Society of Kenya, Judicial Service Commission and the prisons authorities. 2 days after it was announced that prison visits would be suspended for the next 30 days, the team announced a raft of other measures, which include the suspension of all criminal and civil appeals, hearings and mentions starting Monday. The council also resolved that prisoners and remandees will not be presented in court. Instead, new arrests, with the exception of serious ones, will be dealt with at police stations in line with guidelines to be issued by the Inspector General of Police.
Courts will continue to handle certificates of emergency and taking plea in serious criminal cases. However, there will be no open court appearances.
In an effort to decongest prisons, the council also announced that the bench will be reviewing deserving cases identified by the prison authorities.
Magistrates' courts will also review bail terms for those who are in remand.
The remedial actions are effective for the next 2 weeks as the nation moves to guard against an explosion of the COVID-19. Judicial officers have also been prohibited from undertaking any foreign travel for official or private reasons for the next 30 days, unless in exceptional circumstances. As the rest of the country mobilizes following the confirmation of a COVID-19 case in Kenya, the justice system isn't to be left behind. The National Council for Administration of Justice announcing measures it's put in place to limit the exposure of both the court attendees and its members of staff. Olive Barrows, NTV.
And staying with COVID-19 news just in, a hotel along Nairobi's Moi Avenue here in the CBD is on lockdown, with police manning the entrance and exit doors According to witnesses, an unidentified person who is a guest there is believed to have been in contact with an individual infected with the coronavirus. The police are reportedly waiting for medics to facilitate a transfer to the quarantine facility at Mbagathi Hospital. We are now joined live from Moi Avenue by Seth Olale. Seth, what details do you have?
Well, the details I have is that up to 5 hours now is that Dennis Okari and viewers joining us live that the medics you mentioned earlier haven't arrived here at the Topaz Hotel where this particular incident occurred from around 4 p.m. What we have, we are police officers drawn from the Central Police Station who are either on my left as well as on my right, have been combing this particular area. The police have already cordoned off this particular area. There is a seal that has been placed right in front of this hotel. No one is being allowed to get in or come out from this particular hotel. We have a middle-aged lady in her early 30s, according to sources, and they say that this particular lady is a person of interest because they believe that she got into contact with a foreigner and that foreigner has since been taken ill, and so they're just observing the situation, but they're not taking any chances. And right now, that should be a firefighting, that should be a Nairobi City County government fire rescue vehicle just passing by. I thought earlier it was an ambulance, but yeah, sticking to the events that happened here at the Topaz Hotel from 4 p.m., there was a report that, or rather it was reported that there is a lady in her mid-30s that came into contact with a foreigner who has since been taken ill, and so that led to police cordon this particular area. That lady is inside. Momentarily, we saw her trying to come out. She was not allowed to come out, and we have seen the lady ourselves, but she actually tried to make some frantic calls and also just begging the policemen who are just outside the Topaz Hotel to let her go. But according to the police, they have instructions not to let anyone out of this particular facility, as well as let anyone gain access into the Topaz Hotel. We are not very sure how many people are still in this particular hotel because we're being told that it was a surprise operation that was conducted by police officers drawn from the Central Police Station. And according to one officer that I tried to get information from, they're telling us they're not authorized to speak to us. And this is a directive from the officer commanding station at the Central Police Station that they have been instructed to cordon this particular place, not to allow anyone. But now we are 4 hours and counting. We haven't seen any medics around here. We haven't seen any ambulance. And it is just now the police on standby. But what is sure here is that this particular place is in lockdown. No one is being allowed inside and outside, and we're not sure how many people are still in this particular hotel. We're being told it has a restaurant, it has a club, as well as it has rooms, if you like, accommodation. So we'll be here on standby just to try and get as to what happens if the medics will indeed come here, and if the people who are still inside will be allowed to now go after whatever the police are detaining here. We are satisfied with if they can go or they can remain. This information is what we are still waiting for here, Dennis.
Well, very many thanks, Seth Olale, there at Moi Avenue, to be exact, a hotel called Topaz Hotel. Seth tells us that there is a restaurant there, a club there, and there's accommodation there. We don't have any further details, but I'm sure Seth will be sticking there to give us more details as this story unfolds. We only know at this point, no names, but the lady is in her late 30s, and she was in contact with a foreigner who was also infected. So the hotel is along Nairobi's Moi Avenue, which is currently on lockdown, with police manning the entrance we saw there and also the exit doors. We don't know how many workers are in that hotel, we're not sure how many people have been in contact contact with her, but according to witnesses, the unidentified person who is a guest there is believed to have been in contact with an individual infected with coronavirus. The police are reportedly waiting for medics to arrive at this particular moment to facilitate a transfer to the quarantine facility at Mbagathi Hospital. Just keep watching. We'll be giving you further information on this developing story. But moving on, the Deputy President, William Ruto, took the gospel of hand washing and general personal hygiene to the Friends Church in Langata in the face of the coronavirus. The Deputy President exhorted the public to follow the government's directives on the virus to the letter.
At the center of how to prevent and manage the challenge of the coronavirus is personal hygiene, to make sure that we wash our hands regularly, use enough soap, and avoid unnecessary contact with people when it is not necessary. Tulikuwa tunasema tusalimiane hewani, nafikiri sasa hiyo ndio itakuwa salamu kamili, hiyo ya kusalimiana hewani.
A spot check across some churches in the country revealed that most have adhered to the government's directive to provide hand sanitizers to their congregants, even though some of the congregants were refusing to be sanitized. The use of hand sanitizers in churches comes at a time when Kenya has joined the list of countries in Africa to have reported cases of the coronavirus. Sharon Baranga reports.
At the main entrance of Holy Family Basilica in Nairobi, believers have a new ritual they have to observe before they enter the church. They are required to sanitize their hands first, this in a bid to protect themselves as well as other congregants. At every door, hand sanitizers have been made available. Apart from that, there are some ushers helping in the distribution of the sanitizers. Everyone, young and old, has to clean their hands.
Na nimeona kuna sanitizer kwa kanisa, na hiyo ni jinsi poa ya kuzuilia watu coronavirus.
Today being the first Sunday since the first case of coronavirus was announced in the country, churches have taken upon themselves to ensure their congregants are well protected by providing hand sanitizers.
The emphasis of the observance of proper hand hygiene has been widespread. Churches across the city and beyond taking this seriously as the rush to keep the virus at bay continues.
Pia tukigia huko kama asas tumenikarijiwa tumeambio tuambie wanaweza kaa wakiwa spaced. Sivyo tunawapagaga, unajua kawaida yetu asas ni kupaga. Sasa tumeambio leo mtu akae mahali anataka. Juu kanisa ni kubwa.
Corona sisi hapa tumejiandaa, tumetia moyo waaminio waweke usafi, wapandishe viwango vya usafi. Hawatalindwa tu na corona peke yake, kipindupindu upata watu kwa sababu ya mambo ya uchafu.
But while they are trying to ensure every believer adheres with the new rule, they are having a challenge.
Unakuta mtu akiingia anakuambia amesanitizia nyumbani. Kwa hivyo akifika hapa hataki anaingia. Ama unakuta mwingine ametoka huko anajifanya ananao mkono na hajasanitiziwa.
The gospel of cleanliness has extended even to the churches in informal settlements.
Tumeelekezwa kwamba lazima tuoshe mikono zetu ndio tukaingia. Mimi naona hilo ni sawa kabisa.
In Bungoma County, St. Crispina's Anglican Church of Kenya took time to create awareness to their members on what was coronavirus and how to protect themselves. They used PowerPoint slides to project their teaching. The training was organized in partnership with nurses in the county.
Na tumeweka vifaa vya kutosha katika mlango wa kuingia na milango yote ambayo watumishi wa Mungu wanatumia kwa kuingia ndani kwa kuabudu na kushukuru Mungu.
At the Anglican Church of Kenya in Mombasa County, a similar ritual of sanitizing of hands was being followed.
We already had a healthy talk in the first service, sensitizing our people. We've already had a healthy talk in the second service. We've also sensitized our people.
In Kisii County, the Catholic Church gave guidelines on how to prevent infection from person to person of the COVID-19, how to stay safe, and the symptoms to look out for. On Friday, the government suspended all public gatherings, including inter-school events and conferences. Only churches were allowed to continue with their normal services, provided they provide sanitizers. Prison visits were also suspended for 30 days. Sharon Baranga, NTV.
Counties across the country are still scrambling to prepare for potential COVID-19 outbreak. The Ministry of Health had ordered all counties to set up isolation wards as the possibility of it spilling into counties. Anita Nkonge with the Counties Watch.
Your Excellency, since you directed that we support the counties, there is nothing we are leaving to chance. And I can emphasize that we have given them equipment. We have got a list of their wish lists of the things that they will want to put in their level 4 and level 5 hospitals.
As numerous counties across the country prepare for the possibility of receiving COVID-19 patients, in West Pokot County, a 20-bed capacity amenity ward has been converted into an isolation facility at the Kapenguria County Referral Hospital.
We have 10 rooms that are designed for that. And then the other one that are low risk, we have 20 to 25 in the other side. So, and then we're also going to replicate the same in the other sub-counties.
However, following a dispute over pending bills, one of the hospital's new buildings has not yet been completed. The rooms had initially been constructed to contain patients with contagious diseases.
We have just summoned the contractor now, who was waiting for payments, but the payment has not come. We have challenges with the issues of some pending bills.
In Busia County, 2 isolation rooms have been set up in collaboration with the national government. Each of the rooms have a 6-bed capacity. The isolation facilities are located along the Kenya-Uganda border. 2 screening points have also been set up. Meru and Tharaka Nithi County have also set up isolation wards.
Kama county we are prepared. Tuko na masks ambaye already tutaanza kupeana. We have 5,000. Ni wale watu wako high prone areas tuwapatia. Na tumetenga katika hospitali zetu 4 na ukiongeza ya Chogoria 5.
It has now been 2 days since the government announced the first case of the coronavirus here in Kenya. But even so, efforts by various stakeholders to help prevent the spread of the pandemic don't seem to have been implemented. For example, here in the CBD, matatus are yet to provide their passengers with hand sanitizer. In Eldoret, there were similar scenes. Matatu operators at the Eldoret bus park did not provide sanitizers for their passengers, despite an order by the county government of Uasin Gishu. Anita Nkonge, NTV.
Well, from those plenty of stories on COVID-19, we take a short break. And after this break, Julian Amboko will be taking us through the turbulent housing industry in tonight's special feature.
There you go.
Okay, thank you.
Hi there.
Selena!
It's great seeing you getting so much value for your money.
Well, it's important to save as much as you can.
You save everywhere. Except for here. This is where you're throwing money down the drain.
How?
On these cleaning products.
Impossible.
Harpic 10X. While other cleaners flow away, Harpic 10X's viscous formula in only 1 round of application gives you sparkling, clean toilet. Harpic, 10 times better cleaning than other cleaning products.
And great savings too.
Sona moja imetengenezwa kwa njia spesheli ili kupambana na maumivu kwa haraka. Sona moja ina aspirin kama kiungo. Sona moja, kitulizo kamili. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
Beat germs with Jik. Kills 99.9% of germs on your kitchen surfaces, sponges, chopping boards, sink and fridge, and your bathroom taps, showerhead, basin, and surfaces. Just Jik it. Look out for our new improved packaging in store. Just Jik it.
iAbiri is a solution that gives you the power to book a ticket to your destination at the right time and the right price. With a choice of over 35 bus companies, iAbiri gives you the power of choice to easily and conveniently book your ticket to all major destinations. Whether you're traveling for a social function, business, work, or a romantic getaway, iAbiri will get you there. Download the app or log on to www.iabiri.com or call us on 0709-215-215 to book your ticket now. iAbiri, your smart travel partner.
But we had planned, honestly. Best jaribu kutoka kwa hii nyumba. Wacha ni change nikuje.
Cheki,
Babe, don't try leaving this house. Like, why do you like frustrating me, honestly? Where are we going? Where are we going?
Nataka kwanza tufanye ile song ya remix. Taniua, hii magari, taniua. Yaani ile remix yani. Ila featuring.
Sasa ila shida ni moja. Hapa kwangu huwezi fanya kazi basi na nywele kai. Hebu nisaidieni wanaume. Give me ways za kufukuza huyu jamaa.
Welcome home to Amani Ridge, the place of peace. Invest in Amani Ridge, the place of peace. Call us today on 0790-300-300 or visit www.optivan.co.ke.
Welcome back to NTV Weekend Edition. Now, for many years, investors were on a craze around the housing market in Kenya's urban centers. Many raked in high profits as speculating on housing fetched high returns, with prices shooting through the roof. The tide seems to have turned now as segments of the housing market confront excess supply. New apartments can't find tenants, some landlords are slashing rent to retain current tenants, and auctioneers are busy as borrowers default on mortgages. What happened to the once lucrative housing market? NTV's The Housing Correction explores.
Welcome to today's auction sale. We have 3 properties on offer. That is Kajiado Kitangela, stroke 73042. Anyone interested in that particular property? No. Gong Gong, 37632, Laser area, Ongata. Do we have anyone interested in that particular property?
Auctioning of properties has been Joseph Gikonyo's bread and butter for the last 25 years.
35.5.
Today he has 3 properties within the outskirts of Nairobi going under the hammer.
If we have interested bidders for that particular property, let me have your bids, please.
Many of us use the phrase, it goes to the highest bidder metaphorically just about every day. Well, here it is used in the literal sense. We witnessed 2 bidders go neck to neck for a property located in Kiambu's Kahawa Wendani area.
We have an opening bid of 30 million shillings with bidder number 141. Do I get a higher offer?
31.
31 million shillings with bidder number, can I see your bidding number? Bidder number 142. Does it get any higher? 33 million shillings, bidder number 141. Do we get a response? From bidder number 142, yes. How much?
34.
34 million shillings, bidder number 142. 35 million shillings, bidder number 141.
35.5.
35.5 million shillings, bidder number 142.
Auctioneers are a dreaded lot. Oftentimes they remind us there are dire consequences for defaulting on credit facilities, whether from the formal market or the informal market. Unfortunately, the state of the housing market in Kenya over the last 2-3 years has translated into an extremely busy season for auctioneers.
Below target occupancy rates, landlords compelled to slash rent in a bid to retain tenants, and auctions left, right and center. This is the sad state of affairs currently witnessed in segments of the housing market in Kenya's main urban centers. The Kenya Bankers Association has been tracking the average price of housing units in the country from as far back as 2013. The association's housing price index helps put into perspective the situation on the ground. Starting the first quarter of 2018, the index has been on a general decline, falling from a peak of 121.29 to a low of 118.76 at the close of 2019. Jared Osoro serves as the head of research at the Kenya Bankers Association and argues that the housing market is in the process of correcting itself.
For 4 consecutive quarters, we've seen negative prices. And that to us is a clear signal of a correction that is happening in the market. And therefore speaking to how demand and supply dynamics have adjusted in the circumstances making the market start looking downward.
In our status of the built environment report for the last half of last year, this came out predominantly that there's a glut in the market in terms of an oversupply. So demand and supply are not matching up in this bracket of houses, which are ranging from middle income to high income. There are some areas that came out in that report that houses are not moving, and they are in the higher income, Kitusuru, Lower Kabete, they're not moving. When you look at Kileleshwa, Kilimani, there's a large glut of those houses.
In essence, what we are witnessing in the housing market with prices cooling off after years of a steady rise is a reflection of an imbalance between demand and supply. In a situation where we have excess supply, then prices generally begin to stagnate and in extreme cases, decline. Available data from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics gives an indication of what could have happened around the supply of residential property. Between 1999 and 2003, an average of 1,051 new residential buildings were completed in Kenya's major towns. This, however, began to change in 2004 when the figure grew to 1,700, and from that point, it steadily grew to touch a high of 10,300 units in 2018. Gikonyo Gitonga is a board director at the Kenya Property Developers Association and serves as a member of the Institute of Surveyors in Kenya. He argues that this trend is a reflection of the chase for high returns that investors were raking in back then from the real estate market.
If you look back to 2003, we had not had a lot of property developments. So in 2003, 2004, during just the beginning of the, when Mwai Kibaki was the president, there was a real huge development craze. And developers made very good profits. Now the margins have become thin.
This upsurge in development of residential property was anchored on the fact that Kenya experiences considerable rural to urban migration, which is reported to have created a significant housing deficit. The World Bank, in its 2017 Kenya Economic Update, estimated that Kenya had an accumulated housing deficit of 2 million units and that the country needed 244,000 housing units annually to keep up with the soaring demand against an annual construction of less than 50,000 units. These sentiments echoed those of the Center for Affordable Housing in Africa, which in its 2016 study themed Understanding Kenya's Housing Finance Market, estimated that Kenya required construction of 132,000 housing units annually to meet the demand created by the rising number of urban dwellers.
There is no empirical evidence to support the claim that there is a shortage of 250,000 units in Kenya. And that figure surprisingly doesn't change. We've been talking about the 250,000 for quite some time now. I think what needs to be done is a study to understand the housing needs, supply, demand factors, so that you can come up with a figure that can be used as a basis for investment in the market. But a blanket figure of 250,000, whereas it gives the impression that there is a huge undersupply and opportunity for investment, that may not be necessarily true.
It would seem that for the better part, decisions made around Kenya's property market were not based on a fundamental understanding of how the market dynamics actually work. So what this did was to set the stage for the situation we are presently confronting, where there is a glut in the market and prices are softening.
The Institute of Economic Affairs is a policy think tank based in Nairobi, which in 2017 published a document interrogating the state of the housing market and offered options on the policy approach to be taken going forward. The Chief Executive Officer, Kwame Owino, argues that there was a fundamental flaw in some of the expectations held by property developers in the country.
The housing market in Kenya has been on what I'd, for the lack of a better word, call a bull run for almost 12, 15 years. And for a long time, and perhaps the media should also have been cautious with this, everybody gave you the impression that if you buy a house, it will always appreciate. That's nonsense according to standard economics, but for some reason it was accepted.
That assumption of property prices going up continuously has been embedded. Now, you have to take that on the back of the fact that, we see quite a bit of speculation. We live in a market where we don't need to see an infrastructure development for the price of land to appreciate. You just need to hear people speculate that a road or a railway is going to be built in a certain address, and you see the property around that region appreciating substantially.
When you look at the why people invest in property in Kenya, is that sometimes they never even look at the yield. It's an emotional way of investing in property. And you'll find that the rentals you're getting are not matching what you're paying as a mortgage.
Property developers not only erred in assuming that prices would always be trending upwards, but also in what the Kenyan market could actually afford for the housing units. In its April 2017 Kenya Economic Update, which focused on the housing market in the country, the World Bank noted that only 10.2% of urban households in Kenya could afford the cheapest newly constructed house in 2015 at a cost of 1.7 million shillings, painting a picture of the state of incomes in a market where housing prices were rising to stratospheric highs. On the ground, the numbers were more startling. According to a 2016 study by the Financial Sector Deepening Kenya, the Central Bank of Kenya, and the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, 5 out of every 10 working Kenyans have a monthly income which is below 7,500 shillings, while another 4 out of every 10 have an income which lies between 7,500 and just 30,000 shillings.
I think housing prices went far ahead of the incomes that Kenyans have. I mean, your average income in Kenya is about 15,000 shillings per month, right? Here we were selling houses in Kenya, in Nairobi, that are more expensive than real estate in Tokyo and New York. That definitely was out of kilter.
The low levels of income are also reflected in the rent paid by tenants in Kenya's urban centers. Data from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics published in the 2015-2016 Household Budget Survey shows that almost 70% of the country's urban dwellers pay rent that is below 3,000 shillings, with another 25% paying rent that lies between 3,000 shillings and 10,000 shillings. Only 2.3% of the country's urban dwellers who are tenants pay rent that is above 20,000 shillings every month. The only way the masses would be able to afford their houses would be through mortgage facilities. Unfortunately, mortgages have for the better part been so highly priced that they were only accessible to high-income individuals in the economy.
When you look at the mortgages, you only have about 26,000 mortgages. The rest of the people are buying through savings or cooperative circles.
In the housing sector, we all know what the challenges are. One is the access to finance and costly finance, so people cannot afford to take out mortgages to buy houses. And 2 is actually the general cost of housing, particularly in urban areas, where housing in Nairobi particularly tends to be very expensive because of the cost of land.
A study published by the World Bank in 2017 revealed that the average mortgage facility in Kenya stands at about 8.3 million shillings. The study revealed that the cheapest available residential property at 1.7 million shillings would require an income of at least 53,000 shillings every month to be able to service the monthly payment of 21,000 shillings for a 15-year loan at 14% per annum. It is this cocktail of high-cost credit, high property prices and over-ambitious expectations on what the present income levels can absorb that have put the housing market in its present state, with auctions becoming the norm rather than the exception. In the present state of affairs, however, even auctioneers are facing challenges, with properties put on auction failing to attract buyers who are willing and able to take them up.
We have a bid of 35.5 million shillings, and I now ask the bank representative whether that is acceptable. Yes, it is. So for the first time I'm going at 35.5 million shillings to bidder number 142. Second time I'm almost going to bidder number 142 at 35.5 million shillings, and that time and gone to bidder number 142 for 35.5 million shillings. Congratulations. We shall sign the memorandum of sale with you shortly.
Joseph Gikonyo says that in the 2 decades he has been in the auctioning business, the going has never been this tough.
Given the current state of the economy, buyers are few and far between. We have a lot of high quality properties which in the past would attract a lot of competition in our auction halls. But like you saw today, we only had 2 bidders. Such a property, believe me not, 3 years ago would have attracted scores of buyers and would have ended up getting well over 40 million. Okay. Yes, but you saw for yourself, the turnout is at an all-time low. 2 out of 3 properties did not sell, and even the one that sold, we only had 2 bidders, and they basically bought it at more or less what the for sale value was.
Part of the challenge in the sale of properties at an auction lies in the legal provisions around the rules of the game, which effectively set the floor regarding the minimum price at which properties can be sold at.
The Land Act 2012 is very clear. You cannot sell a property through an auction at figures below 75% of the market value. So essentially 75% of the market value is the forced sale value. And that is normally indicated in the valuation report. So you're not allowed to sell below that for sale value.
This valuation report you're talking about,
yes.
How recent should it be?
The valuation report is not supposed to be older than 1 year prior to the auction. Okay. If it is, then the auction is null and void. It can be nullified through court.
Analysts argue, however, that the state of the housing market reflects the general state of the economy, which has been broadly adverse for a number of years now. They say the rampant closure of businesses and subsequent layoffs have been a major catalyst for the slowdown in the housing market.
The property market and the construction industry at large is very reflective of what's happening in the broader economy because of the strong linkages it has. It has linkages to households because the uptake as a households. It has strong linkage to industry, be it manufacturing, be it steel, cement and those other things. And you can actually relate that to the performance of those particular sectors. You must have seen companies in that segment of the market that have been thriving over time, that are basically looking at a market that's not just local but regional, having challenges. Therefore, it simply points to the fact that some of those companies were not operating at full capacity. And when a company is not operating at full capacity, what's the issue? The issue is demand.
In the economy, one of the biggest contributors to the economy is government spending. And if the government is spending but not paying their suppliers, then we have a slowing of money circulating into the economy. So the pending bills is a major issue, and that has caused a lot of traders, a lot of business people to be distressed. When you look at the auctions that are taking place, it is not based, it's not just people who are defaulting on mortgages, it is people who have pledged their properties for as security.
So now that the housing market is caught in this present situation, what lies ahead and what can property developers do to ensure they mitigate the adverse effects of the market downturn?
Now is a good time to start having a conversation. If we cannot meet, if we cannot figure out the demand to meet the supply, then maybe it's a good time to start talking about repurposing some of these buildings. It's to look at actually what the need is in the market. If the need in the market is for example, small clinics, can you repurpose a small residential apartment building into a clinic facility? Yes, you can. You'd have to perhaps do some intensive installations of, for example, mechanical, electrical systems, but you could repurpose it to meet the actual market need. You could also look at things like student housing. Do you have an apartment block that's near an educational institution and the students don't have access to housing? How do you repurpose that building, perhaps changing a 3-bedroom unit into an actual sort of a dormitory laboratory setting where you have, 4 students to a room, and then they have a shared common facility.
I think there's no silver bullet here. I think the KMRC is an important input into this equation, because if it enables the tenor to be lengthened, then of course that makes it easier for people to meet their regular obligations with the financials of those assets. But I think the crux of the matter lies in the cost of the property that's coming to the market, because even if the tenor is long, if what is coming to the market is almost unaffordable, then you've not addressed the problem.
No one quite knows just how far the housing market is still from fully correcting itself. The consensus, however, seems to be that we still have not yet reached that point where the demand for the top and mid-tier segments of the market equals the available supply. The government has now embarked on an ambitious affordable housing program through which it seeks to offload an additional 500,000 housing units into the market by the close of 2022, targeting low-income earners. Only time will tell what the impact of this program will have on Kenya's housing market in the long term. Julians Amboko, NTV.
The housing correction, a story full of insights. Keep the conversation going. That's the same hashtag, the housing correction. A story done there by Julian Samboka. I just want to read a few of your comments here on Twitter. At Gidumbi Minor says, mortgages in the present state of the economy is just sending yourself to an early grave. I have here at Kimsa Arunga, I'm not an economist, but I predicted this would happen in 2015. It's basically about the law of demand and supply. People went out to build houses with no one to purchase or lease from the horse's mouth. My landlord actually has reduced my rent. Right there. At All Carrington, the mortgage crisis in Kenya is the same as what happened in the US in 2007 and 2008. The banking and financial crisis which occurred when banks sold too many mortgages to feed the demand. When homes prices fell in 2006, it triggered defaults. I'll read the last one here by @Charlie Odi. There is lots of copy and paste in the industry without understanding the demand. The housing market must adopt the strategy of getting the touch of the market need. Let it crush, because to be sincere, they've set up unrealistic prices. The hashtag is the housing correction. We're taking a short break. We'll be right back with more stories.
Breathable surface developed with Airsoft technology is very soft and provides the best Molfix skincare.
I've found the best diaper for my baby's sensitive skin.
All babies deserve a high-quality diaper. You should also try Molfix.
I am pleased by just the simple little things of life. And I promise if you take the time, you won't be looking for too long before you find this little secret of mine.
I am Carol, and I've invested in the Alma by Saiton, located in Noaka. Investing in the Alma was the best investment decision I made. I was one of the early investors, and I have enjoyed up to 55% of the capital appreciation. If you are looking to earn above average returns, invest sharp in the Alma Phase 2 today.
Phase 1 is 100% sold. Call to reserve your unit in Phase 2 today.
Welcome back to NTV Weekend Edition. Dafton Muitiki's family now wants investigations into his whereabouts taken over by the Directorate of Criminal Investigations headquarters. Muitiki was reported missing late Wednesday only for his car to be found abandoned near Coffee Plantation along Kiganja Road, Juja in Kiambu County. Seth Olale with the latest update on the search operation.
Dafton Muitiki made headlines when a photo of him holding firearms went viral during the Dusit 2 terror attack in January last year. Not much was revealed about him then and after. He is now missing. The 38-year-old was reported missing late Wednesday night. He was driving a Land Rover Discovery, registration number KCK 997C. It was last seen exiting the Galana Plaza in Nairobi's Kilimani area at around 10:20 p.m. About 6 hours later, the car was found by private security guards at Auckland Coffee Estate, abandoned along Kiganja Road in Juja, Kiambu. The vehicle, which was dusted by DCI officers based in Juja, was later towed to Juja Police Station.
We've just been working with all law enforcement officers and his friends just to try and track his last steps.
Our plea is still the same, that if we could get information that could lead to us finding Dafton, we would really appreciate.
In the meantime, a massive search spearheaded by members of the National Gun Holders Association was conducted at the nearby coffee estates as well as the dam. Muitiki's family members who reported the incident at Kilimani, Mudagari and Kabete police stations now want the DCI headquarters to take over investigations. Sunday being the 4th day since Dafton went missing, another search operation is being expected to be conducted at this particular point where Dafton's car was abandoned and later found. Now, family, friends will be guided by the police in the second search. Seth Olale, NTV, Kiambu County.
Well, as Seth works on that story, we all hope that they will find him, and that story leads us to another break. We'll be back with more stories.
New Blue Band Peanut Butter. Made with 100% pure peanuts. And a good source of omega-6. Grow healthy and happy kids with New Blue Band Peanut Butter.
Well, further afield into something that is quite interesting from West Africa. Thousands mark ancient fishing festival in the northwest of Nigeria following Nigerian government's effort to restore and reopen the festival after a 10-year break due to unrest in the region. The Agungu International Fishing and Cultural Festival is a 4-day fishing fun which runs between late February and March, featuring Kabanchi, a series of water competitions that includes hand fishing, canoe racing, and wild duck catching. Men and boys participate in the contests, while women provide the encouragement, performing songs and dances. The festival is the oldest of its kind in Sub-Saharan Africa and dates back to the 1930s, drawing thousands of fishermen who pass on fishing skills and the community's culture to the younger generation. Well, that story leads us to the sports break, and Ida Oringa will be right here in studio. Stay with us.
Discover the all-new Nivea Nourishing Cocoa Lotion, specially formulated with Nivea's Deep Moisture Serum and Africa's natural cocoa for 48-hour deep moisture. Glowing, radiant skin with Nourishing Cocoa Lotion from Nivea. Get 48-hour deep moisture from the new range of Nivea body lotions.
But we had planned, honestly. Don't jaribu kutoka kwa hii nyumba. Wacha ni change nikuje. Babe, don't try leaving this house. Like, why do you like frustrating me, honestly?
Where are we going? Where are we going?
Nataka kwanza tufanye ile song ya remix. Taniua, hii magari, taniua. Yaani ile remix yani. Bila featuring.
Sasa ila shida ni moja. Hapa kwangu hizi fanya kazi basi na nywele kai. Hebu nisaidieni wanaume. Give me ways za kufukuza huyu jamaa.
Welcome home to Amani Rich, the place of peace. Invest in Amani Rich, the place of peace. Call us today on 0790 300 300 or visit www.optivan.co.ke.
NTV Sport in association with MozartBet. SMS NTV to 29990.
Well, a very good evening to you. Hoping that your weekend has not been too bad considering the latest coronavirus news. Well, the African Volleyball Federation has announced the indefinite postponement of the Women and Men's Club Volleyball Championship due to fears over the coronavirus. Well, the Egypt Volleyball Federation, as well as the event organizer Al Ali Sporting Club, have seconded the postponement of the competitions that had been scheduled for March and April. Malkia Strikers head coach Paul Bitok had headlined requests to the CAVB to postpone the championship amid travel restrictions and concerns over the novel disease. Kenya Pipeline, Kenya Prisons and KCB were lined up to represent the country in the women's category, while GSU and Kenya Prisons would fly the Kenyan flag in the men's contest. Well, 10-man AFC Leopards survived a scare and proceeded to the FKF Betway Cup quarterfinals after beating Ushiru 4-2 on post-match penalties at Afraha Stadium in Nakuru. The match had ended in a barren draw during regulation time. Earlier Sunday, and Ulinzi Stars edged out Migori Youth by a solitary goal at the same Afraha Stadium, with defender Bernard Ongoma the only one on target. Meanwhile, Kariobangi Sharks qualified for the next round after thrashing Talanta 4-1 at Kasarani. In Kisumu, Keroka Technical did not honor their match against Kisumu All-Stars.
Nimepata opportunity mzuri ya kulearn, tumelearn a lot from the game. Na pia nimepata platform poa ya kuprepare for our next league match against Migori.
Well, these are the most dangerous sides to play against, and especially in knockout competitions, because you never know what to expect from them. They are very unpredictable.
Well, Sigalame High School 15's rugby player Eliakim Oundo succumbed to head injuries after a collision during the Busia County Secondary School Term 1 games on Friday. The Form 3 student was injured during a playoff match against Nambale High School at St. Matthias Boys in Busia Town. Oundo was rushed to Busia County Referral Hospital, where scans revealed that he had internal bleeding in the head. He was then referred to Bungoma Life Care Hospital the same day, where he underwent more scans at the intensive care unit. Later on, he was transferred to Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital in Eldoret, where he died at around midnight. May he rest in
Kupata mtoto amelazwa. Nikapata na walimu wake, nikauliza walimu, shida nini na ndugu yangu? Walimu wakaniambia waligongana. Waligongana mna gani? Hata walikuwa wanacheza rugby, sasa mwenzake opponent. Mtoto ana Mbale Boys. Ndiye alimgonga. Na nikauliza aliumia saa ngapi? Wakaniambia yeye aliumia kitu saa 6. Naambia sasa saa 6 kama mtoto aliumia saa 6. Na saa 10 ndio mnajulia wazazi.
Quite unfortunate there. May he rest in eternal peace, and condolences to his family and friends. Earlier on, we updated you on 2 new coronavirus cases in this area. And now 5 Valencia players in the La Liga have also tested positive for the virus.